presidential budget proposal and a brutal winter storm lead off this Tuesday edition of CNN Student News. It's good to see you. I'm Carl Azus at the CNN Center. It's thicker than a phone book. It deals with a record $4 trillion. It was proposed by President Obama yesterday. We say proposed because the Democratic president and the Republican-controlled Congress will ultimately have to agree on the government's budget for the coming year. This plan is a starting point. It's like an opening bid in the process. One thing President Obama wants to do is raise taxes on Americans making more than $500,000 a year and give tax cuts to help many Americans in the middle class to help them get ahead. It's what the president calls middle-class economics. But some experts say many people in the middle class would not see any benefits. And Republicans who control Congress have very different ideas on how to manage the government's money. Boston, Massachusetts averages more than 3 feet of snow per year, but the same storm that set a snowfall record in Chicago has moved east, and Boston has declared a snow emergency with as many as 14 inches expected. Thousands of flights have been canceled, and schools were closed in cities that are used to winter weather. Omaha, Detroit, and Cleveland, just to name a few.
See if you can ID me. Parts of the US Constitution are based on my ideas. I'm a historic document that dates back to England's King John. Focusing on rights and liberties, I was first issued in the year 1215. I'm the Magna Carta, and there are 4 original copies that exist today.
King John was more or less forced to sign the Magna Carta. The barons who did that were trying to keep the king from abusing his power. For instance, imposing high taxes to fund his military campaigns without first consulting the barons who largely paid for them. The Magna Carta has a lot of promises that did not apply to the everyday Englishman of the 13th century, but it has some concepts that apply to everyone even 800 years later.
Salisbury Cathedral, southwest of London, once magnificently the tallest building in medieval England. For as long as it stood with its great Gothic arches, it's been custodian of a very rare piece of sheepskin parchment, one of the 4 original copies of Magna Carta from 1215. Written neatly and densely in a tiny hand, some 4,000 words in Latin, a medieval charter with profound symbolism for our personal liberties.
It's not all that much to look at, is it? And it's true, if you read most of its clauses, you lose the will to live. You know, it's about fishing rights in the Thames, rabbiting rights in the royal forests. Right in the middle, amid all this dreary stuff, you reach clause 39. No free man will be arrested, dispossessed, exiled, imprisoned, or in any way harmed, except by the law of the land or the judgment of his equals. Clause 40. To no man will we delay or deny right or justice. Spine-tingling.
The first words are John, by the grace of God, King of England, J for John. At the end, there is Runnymede, the place where Magna Carta was ratified in Anno Domini, the year of our Lord, 1215. Magna Carta was agreed at a place called Runnymede, a water meadow by the River Thames. King John, murderous, lecherous, and much hated, coerced by the barons to put his royal seal on a charter that included basic human rights. In time, as we know, Magna Carta has come to symbolize our basic personal liberties. Some 2 billion people now live under its principles of common law. The story, cast in bronze on the doors of the American Supreme Court, a golden copy in English etched on glass in the crypt beneath the Houses of Congress. 800 years on, a very English feudal document remains at the very heart of the American Constitution. Nick Glass, CNN, in Salisbury.
Our site, cnnstudentnews.com. Our source, yesterday's transcript page. Our roll call schools for today, Ogden High School. It's in Ogden, Utah. It may be the Beehive State, but it's the Tigers who've answered our roar call. On the East Coast, in the city of Cumberland, Maryland, the Sentinels are on guard. They're watching from Fort Hill High School. And back west in the gem state of Idaho, watch out for the Wolverines. They're watching from Wood River Middle School. Altocumulus, altostratus, cumulonimbus. They're all types of clouds, and while weather balloons are one great way to study them, sometimes you just gotta hike to a mountaintop and plant an observatory. And it helps if that mountain includes a ski resort where roads, trails, ski lifts, electric power, they're all in place. At the Storm Peak Lab in Colorado, you're supposed to have your head in the clouds.
Steamboat, Colorado is home to just one of a handful of high-elevation atmospheric science laboratories in the country. In fact, they do research about the clouds from inside the clouds. A team works up there, they live up there, the lifestyle is incredible, working and living at 10,500 feet.
So we'll go ahead and jump in the snowcat, grab onto that handle, go ahead, climb in there. There you go. I'll jump in on the other side, we'll be ready to go. Some days it's, you're basically driving up here in a snowstorm and you're going from tree to tree to tree because I know the route based on where the trees are and you're navigating that way.
This is not your everyday commute to work. You're in a snowcat and you're traveling uphill about 3,500 feet to get to this point. If you need food, if you need any sort of supplies, it's all got to be brought up by that snowcat.
Come on in, Jen, welcome.
Right. We made it.
Yeah. So Jen, here's our instrumentation laboratory. So we're measuring the bottom of the jet stream. So we're measuring pollution, temperature, meteorological variables, particulate matter, gases in the atmosphere. Basically, at night, we're in the bottom of the jet stream, so we're measuring the air that's circulating around the globe.
And you guys have come a long way. Early days, it was just a trailer, farther down on the mountain.
That's correct, yeah. They'd have to call ski patrol when it was in the trailer, and ski patrol would come over and actually have to dig them out so that they could get out in the snowstorm. And
bathrooms, bunk beds, you can house 9 students, 2 stories, you have a suite upstairs. I mean, this is a full functioning facility where you can live here 3 weeks at a time without anyone coming or going.
That's correct, that's correct. All right, Jen, let's go out on the roof where we have our instrumentation up here. Take a look at the beautiful view.
This is amazing.
Yeah, this really is a special place.
All these instruments here that are basically doing a different job.
Right, so when it's cloudy, we're looking inside the clouds and we're looking at the snow that's forming from the storms. And then on a sunny day, we're actually still measuring, but we're looking at the sun and the gases that are above us. Work we're collecting is going into improving weather models, it's going into better forecasts, it's going into understanding the global climate, it's going into understanding how clouds interact with the surface and how the change in temperature. So it's just really, really great.
Could be good for those researchers, bad for millions of other snowbound Americans. Punxsutawney Phil has seen his shadow. It's the legend of Groundhog Day. If the animal, this one being the most famous, comes out of hibernation and sees his shadow, we're in for 6 more weeks of winter weather instead of an early spring. That's exactly what Punxsy Phil predicted yesterday, but if that gets you down, remember this, he's usually wrong. Rodent you know it, he's a groundhog, not a meteorologist. He's a varmint, a marmot, a whistle pignosticator. For the tame thing, the famed thing's an uncomfortable climate. We bet he would chuck it. Sometimes it's best to stay grounded. I'm Carl Azus for CNN Student News.